I'm Dave Rubin. This is the Rubin Report. I believe we have cleaned all the glitter out of the studio, but if you see anything shiny fall on me, you'll know why. It was the big birthday celebration yesterday. And of course, today is Friday, which means it's time for another Friday Roundtable Extravaganza. And joining me are two Rubin Report All-Stars, as voted by the fans, the co-host of the Clay and Buck Show, Buck Sexton, and the host of the Karol Makowicz Show, Karol Makowicz, and all fine Florida people. Hello, my friends.
Hi, how's it going? I love an all Florida panel.
This is an all Florida panel. Karol, all three of us are kind of coordinated somewhat.
This is Miami. Just wear anything dark in Miami, you can get away with it. So there you go. You got to wear black year round here.
Yeah. Buck, this is definitely the tannest I've ever seen you. You're normally very, very white, but you've started to move into the Florida lifestyle.
Actually, I go for walks in the sunshine here. It's this crazy thing that is good for your health and your mental health, and it has been a huge benefit. I have my trails that I walk, not really trails, my paths that I walk around here. It's great.
Before we begin, I should note also that we're going to keep this show very tight today because I need both of you to get a good night's sleep because you're coming to the big Dave Rubin birthday bash tomorrow night. So I don't want to put too much of a heavy load on you right now.
Thank you.
This is when we're reminded that Karol comes from the former Soviet Union because her ability to put away hard liquor is the stuff of legend.
But tequila's new. Tequila's new. We really vodka I can handle.
Yes. Well, you know, it's going to be all tequila tomorrow. Okay, well, actually, let's start with a place from whence all three of us once lived. Yes, I'm talking about New York City and the disastrous results of the Democrat primary this week. Here's the current mayor, a man who was a Democrat. Now he's an independent. They think he's a moderate, but he did usher in a lot of the nonsense, including the fact that New York's a sanctuary city and all of that stuff. Here is Eric Adams going off on, I'm just going to pronounce his name different every time. We'll just say his name's Zohran Mamdani for right now, calling him a snake oil salesman. Go.
He's a snake oil salesman. Mm-hmm. He will say and do anything to get elected. Think about this for a moment. He wants to raise 1%. He wants to raise tax on 1% of New Yorkers' high-income earners. As the mayor, you don't have the authority to do that. You know who has the authority to do that? An assemblyman, which he is. He wants to do free buses. He could have done it at assemblyman. He doesn't understand the power of government and how you must making sure you improve your economy, raise the standard of living, and this is what we've done in the city. And I'm looking forward to being on the campaign trail and showing New Yorkers we can't go backwards. And New Yorkers never surrender or quit. I'm never going to quit for the city that I love.
Karol, is the irony lost on you that this guy is now the hope for New York, the guy who has orchestrated much of the destruction of New York? And I get it, he's a little bit better now than he's been, and he's sort of backed away from the sanctuary stuff and all that, but that the hope is the very guy who's in charge right now, like, come on, as they say.
Yeah, vote for the criminal. It's important. He had all these charges against him, which the Trump administration Justice Department got rid of. But he was a very questionable figure for a long time. He was so disliked that he couldn't run in the Democratic primary, and that's why he's an independent now. Now, this guy is definitely a liberal, but when compared to a communist, he becomes a much better option.
Right.
So I look, if I were living in New York, and I've been saying this for months and months, I would be holding on to Eric Adams with my fingernails. He would be my guy. I would be all in on supporting him. It's sad that this is where New York has gone to, but he is absolutely the best option for that city. I'll also say crime is down, murders are down. He should maybe run on that. I don't know about whatever he's planning to run on. I already hear him not going in that direction. But if I were him, I would say this is where the crime was when I took office. This is where the crime is now. Even if he didn't have that much to do with it, he should absolutely take all the credit.
Well, I hate to tell you, Karol, it's very unclear to me where the Democrat base feels murder is ranking in there. All right, like if you kill a healthcare executive in the middle of Times Square, they're kind of into it. Buck, you lived there as recently as October of 23, before you move to the free state of Florida. This is sad for all of us that this is what we're left with. Like, in some sense, there's part of me that just doesn't care at this point. Like, this is the nature of the way the country's going. But then there's another part of me that my formative years were in New York. I've had family. We checked in my family records. We had, at one time around 1920, we had over 100 family members in New York. Now there's one person left. Like,
I think
that's not great.
Because of the New York tax authorities, just to be clear, I think it was October of 22. I just want to be very,
because they will come for you. Yeah.
Okay. Because I went through a 2-year audit, so I'm pretty sure came out clean, but pretty sure that it was 22 now that I'm thinking about this. But yeah, I've been here for a couple of years, and I was obviously in New York really through all of COVID and toward the very end. I mean, I was still dealing with all of the madness. This, though, there's a lot of trauma that comes to mind about all of the poor leadership you have in the city of New York, all coming together here. Cuomo was horrible as the governor of New York during COVID, and that we have to look at this guy who was truly god awful. I mean, as bad as Gavin Newsom, as authoritarian and stupid and ham-fisted as any other governor of the country, and say, please save us from the lunatic communist, is degrading, I think, to New York City at some level. So just on that, the fact that Cuomo, I'm happy that he lost. That's the only real silver lining that I see here. I think his political career is over. He was also terrible on crime, I might add. He's the no bail, no jail, jailbreak bill guy when he was governor of New York. So what he did was terrible on that.
Does it not? Wait, but don't you give any credit to Cuomo for being a gay woman and a black man and a disabled? Remember that speech he gave?
Yeah, he's like, I am a gay man. I am an Eskimo. I am a third generation
disabled Muslim.
Yeah. He was everything. He was everybody. I think that Cuomo was actually. I'm stealing Karol's Twitter for this. He did not campaign well. I'd have to agree with that, Karol. High five to you. Meaning it was kind of just like, you're going to vote for me, not the communists, right? And that was it. I mean, there was no effort to convince anybody of anything. And just my take on Eric Adams real quick here. First of all, I'll never forgive him for throwing a massive rap party in Times Square that was so paid for by the taxpayer, that was so loud that it shook my windows and went until midnight. And I remember I went to the NYPD that were all circling around this thing. I was like, guys, this is the loudest thing I've ever heard in my life. What is this? He's like, it's the mayor's, on the mayor's orders. It was called like Revive New York or something. So anyway, but de Blasio was malicious. De Blasio was like, what we need? We need more rich people to feel crime, pay higher taxes, and live in more filth, because that's fair. That's his version of fair. Adams isn't malicious. He's just really dumb and incompetent. So now we're at a place where dumb and incompetent, because it's likely he'll do less damage, is better than the communist, who's really, in some ways, similar to the ideology, I think, of de Blasio, which is this Mamdani guy or whatever, Zohran Mamdani.
I hate to tell you, my friend, but you're going to long for, not you because you don't live there anymore, but New Yorkers are going to long for the day of rap being blasted loud in Times Square, because it's going to be the Muslim call to prayer soon enough. Here's a little from Zohran Mamdani on how he's going to nationalize, or I guess institutionalize, city takeovers of the grocery stores.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zohran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
Buck, I'm going to let Karol do the heavy lift on the socialist component here, but can you talk, because you are a big radio star these days, a bit about what I think he's doing that, even though I think it's evil, I think he's managed to do something well, which is the slickness of the ads. The way the music is, the softness of the lens, there is something that they are doing there. He's carrying the little thing that all the social media people do, the little microphone. There's something else going on here that clearly Eric Adams isn't going to pick up on. I get it's all theatrics and everything else, but there is something to it. And then, Karol, you can handle the evil socialism.
I'm sure I'd like to hear what Karol's grandparents thought about bread lines at the grocery store. I have a feeling feeling they weren't big fans. I would just say that it's clearly slick. I thought his ad that I saw, particularly where he went into the kebab kiosks or whatever, the halal carts is what we call them in New York. But I think the ads where he went in and talked to these guys, and you get the sense that this guy really cares about everyday New Yorkers. Now, I think his policies are insane. I think he's going to be a disaster for the city. I mean, all that goes without saying. But yeah, he's slick. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this guy understands the medium and understands the message, which is why he was able to beat Cuomo, who's a big name guy. I mean, say what you will about what a jackass he is. A lot of times it's just the guy who everybody knows. And I can't even remember this, Zohran Mamdani was able to crush a guy who's got his dad was the governor before him and has a big bridge named after him just outside the city.
I'm starting to think that maybe Cuomo regrets killing all those old people because they vote in droves. Is there anything worse than an old person on election day? Karol, talk to me about socialism and government-run grocery stores.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't even have to go back to grandparents. My parents. I came to the United States when I was a small child. I heard all the stories about the Soviet Union and how when we got to Italy, which was, what legal immigration looked like back then. I know it's hard to imagine now, but there was a process and we had to go to Italy and apply to other countries in order to take us in. The ex-Soviets who got to Italy marveled at the amount of food, and they couldn't believe it. A lot of them talked about wanting to faint because they didn't understand how there was so much food available for people to buy. We're going to have that sensation if Mamdani is the kind of plan that America wants to get on. Grocery stores are already in New York City all over the place, fairly inexpensive. The idea that he's going to make grocery stores even cheaper is crazy. There's no huge markup on groceries. And I just think, part of his thing is free stuff. Free stuff is a very powerful argument. And the conservative side, Republicans, and even, moderates and independents need to figure out a way to counter that in a smart way. His messaging is very slick. It reminds me of my pictures from the late 90s or early 2000s. It's that kind of gloss on them, that kind of sheen. Mm-hmm. It makes people subconsciously think about the glory days of New York City. And I think that he has a very tight thing going on, and he will be hard to beat, but the sane New Yorkers who are left need to start now.
All right, so if people don't think that having government-run grocery stores in that city is bad enough, I want to read 2 tweets of his. We will support existing decarceral legislation that will end cash bail, repeal the walking while trans ban, decriminalize sex work, legalize marijuana, permit safe injection sites, restrict solitary confinement, enact elder parole, re-enfranchise incarcerated New Yorkers. We will also introduce new decarceral legislation to decriminalize simple drug possession, repeal all mandatory minimum sentences, reduce maximum sentences with retroactive effect, repeal felony bump-up statutes, repeal sentencing enhancements, end cooperation with ICE. Walking while trans, I don't know what the high hell that is. Buck, you want to take a stab at it? I'm just guessing it's not good. Related to all of the other things, probably not great. Walking while trans.
Not to put you in a corner, Dave. I was going to ask you for help on that. I have no idea what walking while trans is. I have no idea.
I'm actually not going to let my guys Google it. Normally we would fact check during a show, but nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, you don't know what's going to happen on that one. Look, I've gone over this many times on the radio because I think it's important for people to understand the cycle. And it is when you start doing these things that can sound good in theory, like we're just not going to punish people. What you end up doing is allowing far more people, really encouraging far more people to be punished by criminal offenders. It's not like the suffering stops. You're just removing a degree of suffering from those who are inflicting suffering on others, right? It's like squeezing the balloon. You don't actually get rid of the air. You just move it to one side. Mm-hmm. And so when you do things like, we're going to have safe injection sites and we're going to decriminalize drugs and we're going to decriminalize sex work. All right, well, now you're going to have encampments in parks in Manhattan and in Brooklyn and elsewhere of people who are injecting drugs in broad daylight, who are going to be severe addicts, who are going to be trading sexual activities for the money they need to buy the drugs. And when they don't, can't do that or won't do that or whatever, they're going to turn to petty crime because they're severe addicts. And now you're going to have people who are going to be getting their stuff stolen, and there'll be people who are having psychological breakdowns because they're so high on these drugs, and they're going to attack people and there'll be violence. It's just, this is what happens. This is what happened in San Francisco. This is what happened in Seattle. This is what happens in every city that goes down this pathway. And the fact that this still is something that anybody would support, it's because they haven't, it's actually Ben Affleck is who I saw with this. And I have not seen a lot of wisdom from Ben Affleck over the years. But he has made some good movies, to be fair. I thought he was probably best in Boiler Room. We can talk about this another time. He was excellent at like the Long Island, kind of super douche.
Yeah,
but,
that was basically around the town I grew up in.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he could, so he though said something about how he really conquered alcoholism, and I just thought this was really interesting. He's like, he's like, I don't want to put down AA. AA can work for people. It's great. He went through this whole thing. He's like, but you just haven't suffered enough. It's like eventually you reach a point where you actually have suffered so much that you want things to change. And
so
that
Karol,
can be
is that? Yeah. So is that kind of what everyone's take really should be like? Okay, fine. Maybe Eric Adams slightly delays the inevitable, but that really they just have to hit rock bottom over there. We know we're going to get the influx here in Florida. And there'll be some other places that people flee to, but it will mostly be down here for several reasons. And just let them hit rock bottom, and it kind of is what it is.
So I'm very mixed on that. I still have a lot of family and friends in Brooklyn and in Manhattan, and I don't want to see New York collapse. I should also note, it's interesting, that tweet is January 2020. Now, that kind of thing does not go national until summer of 2020. So he was an early adopter of all the insanity that came to follow. Until George Floyd killing, all of that had really been an underground thing. And it wasn't saying things like defund the police was considered extremely insane until that summer where it went mainstream on the left. So I don't know. I can't root for New York's demise. I want to see it pick itself up and brush itself off and go back to being the city that was really amazing for a while. I think that, a lot of people say to me like, oh, why didn't you move sooner? I'm like, because New York was great. It was great. It was great for 8 years of Giuliani and then 12 years of Mike Bloomberg. And then even the first term of Bill de Blasio, he really coasted on all of their accomplishments. It took work to undo all the policies that had made New York flourish. And Bill de Blasio, not a big worker, but he put in the effort for that.
The craziest part is that Giuliani made it so good and Bloomberg ran off of that the worst thing that was happening under Bloomberg was they were basically like, you can't have big soda, and everybody was going crazy.
Having solved all other problems.
This is we see this in different ways playing out in other places in the country too. One of the things that annoys me the most about, well, there's a lot of things, and I think you call him a soulless lizard person, which is apt, Dave, which is Gavin Newsom. I think soulless lizard person, you nailed it with that. But he always says, like our economy is like the fourth largest economy. And, he's got a shirt unbuttoned down to his navel. And he's like, our economy is the fourth best economy or biggest economy in the world. And I always want to scream at the television, not because of you or anything you have done. It became that when California was a Republican state, which allowed for the incredible growth. People think of Silicon Valley as a recent thing. Silicon Valley got started really back in the 50s, in the 60s. Silicon Valley's been around a long time. California was a Republican state, and it was able to grow and become really the dreamland of America when it wasn't overrun with illegals and doing crazy left-wing stuff. And my point on this is that it takes a while for the iceberg to melt, right? Yeah. And now we see it with people leaving California. Now we see it, but it's like a kid who inherits all of his parents' money and is a total moron, when he's a young adult. And it's like, oh, well, I'm still rich, so like you shut up. It's like, well, yeah, but you're going to run out of money and you're destroying everything that was built before you. That is Democrats. It is Democrats in the state of California. It is Democrats in New York City. And by the way, it's socialists everywhere. I mean, this is just the constant thing. They take over. It takes a while for it to get bad. They live off the fruits of those who were smarter and better before them. And then when it's terrible, they're like, yeah, it's somebody else's fault. That's what they do.
Well, it looks like we all made the right decision then, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Let me read you. This is the one he actually deleted. We don't need an investigation to know that the NYPD is racist, anti-queer, and a major threat to public safety. What we need is to defund the NYPD. So that one he has deleted, but he is still talking about how we shouldn't have police showing up to certain crimes because they escalate things and you should have social workers, something like that. Buck, you know a little something about law enforcement. I mean, is this just profoundly absurd?
Yeah, as shocking as it is to some of your viewers, they let me loose from the country club for about 18 months and set me up at the NYPD intelligence division. So yeah, I was an employee for a period of time of the NYPD, and specifically working with all of the data and doing the nerd stuff, right? Like looking at what works, what doesn't work, what the strategies are, and all of the rest of it. And I just think, one, you look at I keep wanting to say Mamdani. And everything that he wants to do is wrong. Everything that he wants to do would make things worse from a public safety perspective. And the fact that anybody can't see that at this point that's the part where I think it is like a delusional loop of you hear things from the people who are around you and from the media, and you don't talk to anybody who disagrees, and you refuse to engage with this stuff. And it just also reminds me, though, when he talks about, like, he's had tweets I've seen about violence interrupters and things like this. You talk to any social worker and they're like, I'm getting sent in, because that's another thing. He wants social workers instead of cops.
Right.
You talk to a social worker and say, hey, there's a call about a violent domestic dispute. Do you want us to go in there and try to figure? They're like, yeah, we're the cops. The people who actually do this know. And I would just add this, one of the best things, and they thought it would go in the other direction, and I'm a big believer in this, and I just want everyone to know this, body cams have done more to undermine the anti-cop narrative than anything else than any stats, than any news stories, anything, because people see that cop that got attacked in Virginia during a wellness call by a former basketball player from Georgetown who charged at him with a butcher knife and tried to stab him for no reason, all on camera, right? I don't think a social worker would have been able to help.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to send the social worker from the Upper West Side to deal with that. Karol, I want to read you one last one, and then we'll move on, because this guy's starting to make me nauseous. He's not even mayor. I don't even live in that place. But this is this is really wild. This is from October 8th, 2023. Everyone knows what happened on October 7th. My statement on the last 36 hours across Israel and Palestine. I mourn the hundreds of people killed across Israel and Palestine in the last 36 hours. Netanyahu's declaration of war, the Israeli government's decision to cut electricity to Gaza, and Knesset members calling for another Nakba will undoubtedly lead to more violence and suffering in the days and weeks to come. The path toward a just and lasting peace can only begin by ending the occupation and dismantling apartheid. That was October 8th. Before Israel had sent a soldier into Gaza, there were no hundreds of dead Palestinians. There might have been some dead Hamas fighters killed in Israel after murdering and raping people. I don't even want to, the nonsense around the Nakba and the rest of it. I mean, this guy is an absolute radical, and I've been saying it on the show for months. If he wins and you're a Jew, you better get the fuck out of that city. It's as simple as that.
But don't come to Florida unless you're planning to vote Republican, because we can't have your sort of Democrat thing down here. Sorry. Look, I think that comment on October 8th is very telling about him. Look, what I say to my fellow Jews is, yeah, you might have a problem with this guy, but really leftism is the problem. It always heads in this direction. Mamdani is from Uganda. He doesn't have any comment about what's going on in Uganda. You know how dangerous that place is? You know how much murder goes on there? That's not a concern to him, but Israel has been his lifelong passion and the cause that he's devoted all his time to. During the debate, he was asked whether Israel should exist. He said it should exist as a free state for all. It should not exist as a Jewish state. It is a free state for all. He has no idea what he's talking about. In the last year or few months, the conversation about have you been to Israel has become a prevalent thing. If you haven't been to Israel and you say this kind of thing, it shows that you haven't been there, because everybody knows that in Israel, there are Arabs in the Knesset, that's in their government. They are a functioning society that does not exist anywhere else in the Middle East, where Muslims, Christians, and Jews all live together. Literally nowhere else in the Middle East does this happen. And his problem is Israel. You got to be kidding me with this guy, am I right? Here's our guy, Florida. Thank you, Buck, for the eye movement there. I appreciate that. Here's our guy, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, on the potential incoming group of people.
If this socialist mayor candidate wins in New York City, you're going to see real estate values skyrocket even more in Palm Beach, because people are going to get out of that city. As bad as de Blasio was, this guy is going to be way, way worse. He doesn't think that you should have law enforcement in dangerous parts of the city, that you should send in social workers. See how that works out for you. It ain't going to work out well. So, they've made a lot of really dumb decisions, and we've benefited from it.
Buck, I believe you're a first-time homeowner, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess this will work out well for you.
Yeah, I also own some investment properties in Florida, so I'm excited about how that's probably going to go. I don't think it's going to be Palm Beach real estate that goes up. That's already pretty much the most expensive real estate in all of America at this point.
Right.
Like, I think it's either beachfront in Nantucket or Palm Beach anywhere on the island. I mean, it's really crazy prices. It's going to be Palm Beach County. It's going to be, in and around Fort Lauderdale, and it's going to be all these other places. So, yeah, I think that you'll see, I don't know, a lot of us have already come down here. I mean, if I'm really being real here, I think that a lot of the would-be refugees, people who could leave, like the reason the rest of my family doesn't come is because of family. My sister's husband's family is all rooted there. Their jobs are there. So I think the people who were mobile, if you weren't going to leave after COVID, I don't know if this is really going to push you that much further. But it does continue the trend because there will be some outflow. And the people who are saying, I might add, that the New York to Florida refugees, just give it time. They're going to, no, in fact, it's actually the other. I'm like a Florida anchor baby now. I'm trying to bring the rest, the rest of my family from New York, as are my two brothers. We're all in. And, he doesn't get a lot of press these days, but I am still just so grateful that Ron DeSantis, whenever I see Ron DeSantis or any of the, or, Uthmeier, any of their names, I'm like, oh, look, another smart thing they're doing. Look at that.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, they just simply never fail us. And that's why the three of us are here. And that's why we all together fight as hard as we can for this great and wonderful free state of Florida. All right, let's shift over to the World War III thing that never happened. But first, Block Trust IRA. When the financial elite quietly build their wealth through crypto, everyday Americans have been left out until now. Block Trust IRA is changing that. I've partnered with them because they're using cutting-edge AI to empower hardworking Americans with the same wealth-building tools the establishment wants to keep out of your hands. Their Animus AI trading platform runs 24/7, executing advanced crypto strategies far beyond buy and hold. No surprise it was named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine, beating out over 1,500 competitors worldwide. Whether you're a teacher, trucker, small business owner, or retiree watching inflation eat your savings, Block Trust IRA is giving you a way to fight back. Backed by military-grade security and up to $200 million in insurance. Clients are seeing returns of over 250%, and right now they're offering up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you open an account. Visit DaveRubinCrypto.com to join the financial revolution and claim what's rightfully yours. That's DaveRubinCrypto.com. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about the war, the 12-day war, whatever you want to call it, the thermonuclear war that didn't happen, et cetera, et cetera. But I want to start because we covered yesterday that there was this big fight basically between the Trump administration and CNN claiming via an illegal leak that the strikes, particularly at the Fordo site, did not work and that they were now suddenly months away from having nukes, even though CNN the week before was literally reporting that they were years away from having nukes. So none of that really made sense. Here is CNN disclosing top secret information that claims that the Iranian sites were left largely intact. So this is from like 2 or 3 days ago, and then we'll get you caught up.
It was produced by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the Pentagon's intelligence arm. And it is worth noting that it is a very early assessment. The strikes were only a matter of days ago, and the intelligence community is still gathering intelligence. They are still working to come up with a full, comprehensive picture of what exactly happened here. But based on a battle damage assessment that was carried out by U.S. Central Command, essentially looking at the images and looking at what was actually damaged, the Defense Intelligence Agency has assessed that the core components of Iran's nuclear program are largely intact, and that Iran's nuclear program has essentially only been set back by months.
Okay, so everyone that watched the show yesterday, we played the videos of Pete Hegseth basically being like, these are low-level assessments that are not congruent with everything else that we're seeing. The entire show, I kept saying, I just have no reason to believe the people that have lied about everything, and we will see. Well, look what happened on CNN yesterday.
I think from what I've seen, the 20,000 centrifuges, you had about 17,000 in Natanz, about 3,000 in Fordo. They are all completely destroyed. I am very confident those centrifuges are gone. The Israelis destroyed.
I'm shocked. I'm shocked that CNN was floating another nonsensical story. And before I have you chime in, I thought this was an interesting piece of the story. This is from Nicholas Fondacaro from Newsbusters. Natasha Bertrand, who wrote the piece that CNN was referring to, was also behind the false claims that the Biden laptop was Russian misinformation when it was 100% true. One of the other CNN journalists she worked with on the Iran strike story is Katie Bo-Lillis, one of the reporters responsible for CNN's malicious defamation of Navy veteran Zachary Young. These people are liars who lie for money. Karol, I'm kind of getting tired of being right about everything.
It's tough.
That's not a question.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to just be right all the time and not have people know it until some time has passed. What I would say about this is it's another misunderstanding about Israel. It's another misunderstanding about the ally relationship between the United States and Israel. There is no way Israel enters into any kind of ceasefire until they're comfortable that everything has been destroyed. We're talking about the country that planted the beepers in Hezbollah leadership's pockets. And we're talking about the country that had Mossad agents working inside Iran in groups trying to get rid of Mossad agents inside Iran. I mean, that is the country that we're talking about here. There's no way that they're going to give up on letting Iran have a nuclear weapon and have a ceasefire until they are completely satisfied with this. And the thing is that the United States and Israel share information. Again, that is the ally relationship. I think people have completely lost the plot about what allyship really means. And when they share that information, America knows exactly what went down. They know exactly what they destroyed, and so does Israel. And I have never felt better about the Trump administration than I did following that attack. Seeing Pete Hegseth in action has been incredible. I think was a fantastic choice to lead the Pentagon. I think that Marco Rubio has been spectacular. I love everything that they're doing, and it's been a real difference from previous administrations to watch such competence in action.
No, it's incredible. Actually, since you mentioned Hegseth, let me throw this clip of Hegseth going scorched earth on the press over this story.
Because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is to, fly a plane for 36 hours? Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery, or how hard it is to refuel midair, giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was.
I mean, Buck, it's not going to get much better than this guy as far as I'm concerned.
Well, this is one of the brilliant strategic Trump 2.0 realities, which is you can find people who are competent at the job and highly media competent as well. Because what the Democrats have been able to rely on for, when we used to call them the MSM and the mainstream media and all that, is even if, let's say in the Bush era, something was going well, they would just hammer whatever dork George W. knew from his time in Texas that he had made the so-and-so or the such and such in his cabinet or whatever it was. I mean, there were some exceptions to that, but even somebody who was adept in an argument and a good political infighter, bureaucratic infighter like Cheney, he didn't come across well when the media was going after him, right? He was like, Cheney. And so now having these people, and you can see they've been, seated at the top of these different agencies who are on, in line with the Trump agenda and also know exactly how the media plays the games they do. This is also why I think the anti-Trump resistance is just still so almost catatonic. It's like they barely exist. On the substance, by the way, I used to write these kind of intelligence assessments. And one thing I can tell you, it was like herding cats. You get all these different people in a room. You got
Mhm.
analysts this, analysts that, different agencies, different equities, the notion that somebody right after this strike would be the one who knew based on preliminary information and then would choose to leak that information outside of official channels is laughable.
And by the way, there is an investigation now. They're going to find the leaker. This is a rare time where I actually think they're going to actually. Buck, can you speak to that for a second? When they release a confidential classified report like this, I assume that somebody goes, okay, we've got 12 of these, and there's a way to track them, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it depends. At a certain level, there are fewer and fewer people who have access. So you operate under what they call a need-to-know principle. So, for example, anybody who's covering China issue inside the CIA or the NSA, they're completely siloed off from the Iran damage assessment stuff, right? They're not going to. So that's in the broadest way. But then even within the area or tactical discipline that you're talking about, whether it's like a WMD office or a regional office, because they break these places down along those lines. So sometimes you'll have multiple different offices within the agency that all touch on an issue. Within that, there's some accountability on the most super secret squirrel stuff, lack of a better way of putting it, where they additionally read you into things and additionally tell you, look, not a lot of people, they won't even tell you how many people know. They're like, not a lot of people know about this,
right?
And we will prosecute over this. And that is a real thing that goes even beyond, you could be prosecuted for leaking any classified, but they kind of tell you, we're really serious about it this time on this issue because of the sensitivity. And I think this probably was along those levels of a read-in only for a small subset. And so they may be able to track it. Again, I'm just surmising because I don't have that access, but that's the way it used to be when I was on the inside.
I have a feeling they're going to get somebody on this one. The way that Hegseth and Levitt were talking about it, I just have a feeling.
Well, they can threaten to polygraph people, Dave. And the guy who pees on himself first in the office when they threaten to polygraph might want to dig into his emails a little bit.
That's the guy that might want to look into early retirement or some other arrangements. Karol, I recently received an email from The Guardian, and they wanted to know why I use the word retard so much. Here's a clip of Joy Reid.
I find it rather extraordinary that we are very casually having a conversation about the tactical success or failure of dropping a 3,000-pound bomb or two on a sovereign country that did not attack us. We are failing to unpack or even address, as we're discussing whether or not it was effective how we bombed Iran, whether Donald Trump was correct in saying we obliterated their facilities, and not asking, why on earth is the United States bombing a country that did not attack us? What on earth are we doing there at all? And why is it that there is this arrogance in the West and in the United States to say that we get to decide who can have nuclear energy? We get to decide that, and not just decide it, we get to act on it and drop bombs on a country that didn't attack us. We had no business dropping bombs on Iran. And so the question of whether the tactic worked or not, to me, ignores the fundamental moral question at hand. And I think that I'm not alone probably among Americans who are saying that this was something that we had absolutely no right to do.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I say the word retard. Couple things there, Karol. They didn't attack us. Well, they do fund Hamas, which killed 46 Americans on October 7th. So whether you care about Jews or Israel, you should care about Americans from an American perspective. Whether it was effective or not, I think we just got the answer on that. And she can't seem to make the distinction between nuclear energy, which they wouldn't have needed these levels of enrichment, versus nuclear weapons. Also, why is it that everyone that gets fired ends up on CNN?
Yeah, what's up with that? They have attacked us. What about our Marine barracks in 1981? This is the same administration. These are the same Ayatollahs. I mean, let's be serious here. They've attacked Americans in a number of different ways. The idea that they wouldn't attack us if they could is ridiculous. And I think, Joy's counterpart on the right, Tucker Carlson, would say very similar things to what she just said. But I think he says, if we knew that Iran was close to getting a nuclear weapon, we would already be at war. But why would we wait until they were close to getting a nuclear weapon? It makes no sense. So this idea that Iran would never want to hurt us is just absurd. And it is completely bellied by the fact that they do want to hurt us, that they talk about wanting to hurt us. They chant it in the street. I know we're not supposed to take their chants of death to America seriously, but I kind of think that we should. And the fact that they were trying to develop these weapons and the fact that we have troops in different areas that they can still attack, I think we should take that threat very seriously. The Trump administration is doing just that, and we should never listen to Joy Reid.
That's really the bumper sticker. Buck, you want to get us somewhere before the commercial?
Yeah, I just want to add real quick. I feel like we're probably running up against the clock. The attacks on American soldiers in Iraq, which I was in Iraq when that was happening with the CIA, and it was a primary cause of not only fatalities, but also really egregious wounds, people losing arms and legs from these explosively formed penetrators, which the Iranian IRGC explicitly created to punch holes in our armored vehicles, our Humvees, our armored personnel carriers, to maim and kill American soldiers in a country that was not Iran, and Iran was not at war with us. They just wanted to bleed Americans. And that's why the Soleimani takeout was so important. And that's why people like Joy Reid are absolute morons.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of people, I think, that have been exposed as nuts. There were many people over the last 2 weeks telling us we were about to enter thermonuclear World War III. We'll have a bit on them in just a second, but also an opportunity for peace, which is really wild right now. But first, 1775 coffee. You know that feeling when your coffee actually does what it's supposed to do? It clears your head and lifts your energy. That's what good coffee is supposed to feel like, and that's what you get with 1775 coffee. Their coffee's organic, single origin, high altitude, and small batch roasted. That means no toxins, no acidity, and no jitters. Just smooth, clean coffee that fuels your day without weighing you down. From bold, everyday roasts to brain-boosting mushroom blends and anti-aging formulas, 1775 has the functional coffee option to match whatever mission you're on. Whole bean, ground, or pods, your morning just got an upgrade. Go over to 1775coffee.com. Use code Rubin for 15% off your purchase and enjoy some coffee. All right, so check this out from AF Post. This is from yesterday. President Trump has brokered a comprehensive agreement to end hostilities in Gaza within 2 weeks. Under the plan, Hamas will be removed from power and replaced by a joint Arab administrative body composed of Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, and 2 additional Arab nations. Remaining Hamas leadership will be exiled and all hostages are to be released. Multiple countries have agreed to accept large numbers of Gazan residents seeking voluntary immigration. The deal also expands the Abraham Accords with Saudi Arabia, Syria, and other Arab and Muslim nations agreeing to recognize Israel and establish diplomatic relations. In parallel, Israel has expressed conditional openness to a future 2-state solution, contingent upon significant reforms within the Palestinian Authority. As part of the agreement, the United States will recognize limited Israeli sovereignty in portions of the West Bank. Karol, I mean, people were telling us thermonuclear World War III. It was a 12-day war that ends with Iran being basically completely incapacitated, all of their proxies blown away. I mean, if Israel gets the 20 people back and there's some mechanism, who knows if it'll work, but some mechanism to end Hamas over there and something. Yeah. Wow. Give Trump every Nobel Peace Prize going forward.
Absolutely. And you know, it's funny, as I talk about in every segment, I keep saying like, oh, the Trump administration is being so amazing and the Trump administration is so incredible. I'm not a rah-rah MAGA person. I'm not. But I think what they've been doing is stellar work. I think that this new plan is unbelievable. If they could enact even most of this, it would really be a complete game changer for the Middle East. Imagine a normal Middle East. Imagine a normal Middle East where you can visit countries that you would never in a million years consider visiting. I would love that. I would love a normal, stable Middle East. And anybody who opposes that, we really need to think of them as a questionable person. The Trump administration wants that for the Middle East, and they're working towards that goal. I love this plan. I think if they can get some part of this done, it would just be unreal, unbelievable.
Buck, is that right? So, Karol, I completely agree. Obviously, I mean, Buck, is that kind of the crazy part here, that there was a certain set of people on the right, and we're going to do one Tucker video in a second, which I'm sure you guys have somewhat similar feelings on having to talk about these things that kind of can be annoying at times because you know these people. But the idea that everyone was a warmonger if you wanted this taken out with Iran was actually crazy. It's like the reverse of peace through strength. And now look at the opportunity we're seeing on the other side.
Yes, I think that at some point we have to hold people at least accountable to being wrong. right? There's opinions and then there's being wrong. And if you were somebody who said that taking out the Iranian nuclear facilities, or even attempting to, right? We can still have people that are quibbling as they are over how effective the strikes were. I think they were quite effective. If the Iranians can build things that we can hit with 30,000, not 3,000, is 30,000 pound bombs,
right,
which have to be let out the back of like the large, of a B-2 bomber, which costs $2.4 billion. That, my friends, is to me just indicative of how crazy the other side has become on this stuff. But they made these projections, or they made these predictions that were wrong. And if you're wrong on big stuff, you might want to be a little more humble. Look, in the opening hours of this, my position was the Israelis are the good guys. I don't want American troops in Iran.
Yep.
I trust Trump to not do that. The Israelis have the right to do this and the skills to do it. Let's see what they can do. And what they've done is remarkable. And what the Trump administration did with really the kind of over-the-top finishing maneuver is, at this stage, you have to say remarkable and as a success, and remarkable and paving a better future, possibly at least, for the Middle East. Nothing is perfect, right? The Taliban runs Afghanistan.
Right.
A former Al-Qaeda jihadi basically runs Syria. And we're telling those peeps now, look, you're not going to do the things we want to do. We get it. You mess with us and we're just going to lay waste to everything. I mean, that's effectively Trump policy in those countries. They've got a choice. Well, Iran has a choice now, too. We can hit you. You can't hit back. How many times do you want to go through this? So the people that were claiming that it would be dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria, they were wrong. And a little humility might be a good idea for them.
I appreciate a good Ghostbusters reference. So let's just do one segment on Tucker, because it seems like he was kind of leading the other version of this, which is that this is going to lead. I mean, he repeatedly said it would lead to World War III. Alex Jones kept saying thermonuclear war. Tucker said there would be thousands of American deaths. Buck, you're completely right. We can all be wrong about things, and we all have been wrong about things. But to me, there was I really liked the meme of the panicking, that there were certain people that were just trying to keep everyone in an utter state of panic. And if we just, I don't know, have a little faith and understand a little something about peace through strength that Donald Trump does, especially to the backdrop of that Saudi Arabia speech that he gave, which was exactly what you just said there, Buck. Like, just guys, enough of this shit, basically, and then you can join America in a future free world. Anyway, here's Tucker. Apparently he was on air when we found out that 6 rockets were shot towards Qatar.
There's some breaking news.
What now?
Well, this is just sad on every level. This is the Telegraph. Look, I don't know if this is true or not. Explosions have been heard over Doha, Qatar, after Iran launched a missile attack on the U.S. base there. Western officials told Axios that Iran had fired 6 missiles toward at least one U.S. base in that Gulf country. That base exists to protect Israel, by the way. Well, I'll just say, I just want to say it should go without saying, but I mean, I'm praying for the success of, whatever America does, because I'm praying for America, but I'm concerned, and I hope that people who have audiences will be responsible and just remember, like, life is short. You're going to have to give an account. Like, try to be honest, try to be humane, try to care about other people. I don't know. So that's my view.
I'm sorry, guys. Like, I'm just over it with his bullshit and dishonesty. And I know we won this round, so maybe it's not even worth talking about. But like, hand over heart, because 6 rockets got shot into Qatar. It was coordinated, by the way, with the Qataris that they were going to do this symbolic thing. Nobody was hurt. Sad on every level. Don't think he thought it was sad on every level when all of the rockets were raining down on Tel Aviv. Okay, the base to protect Israel is a complete and utter lie, absolute lie. And Qatar was housing and funding Hamas. And then he hopes that people of audiences will be honest. It's like, dude, fucking get a mirror. Okay, Karol, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that was a really disappointing segment, because I thought that was just acting. And what I always liked about Tucker was that he was very real. I didn't like that at all. The hand on the heart was ridiculous to me. And again, that lack of faith in what America and their ally Israel were doing is surprising to me in so many different ways. I mean, setting aside Tucker, we had Steve Bannon talking about how Israel is not an ally. And he said that the afternoon that Trump issued his extremely pro-Netanyahu, pro-Israel truth 2 days ago. And they end up being not just wrong, but egg on their face wrong, and then still want people to have faith in them. And I find that whole experience to be just sad, really.
Buck, what do you make of just like the us part of this, that we all talk for a living, we get things right, we get things wrong, but something about the end there when he said people who have audiences should be, in essence, kinder or more honest. And it's like, I know you don't want to shit on him. Like, I get it. None of us wanted to do this. For a year, I could have done this, and I didn't want to, and it finally broke. But what do we make of that component of this?
So I'm always a little squishy on I won't hit anybody who's my friend publicly, and I always tell the audience that. I'm just like, just don't expect me to do that. Now, I wouldn't say Tucker would consider me a friend, but we've always been cordial and gentlemanly to each other. So and that's my policy. Like, that's my policy with everybody on the right. I really don't break it. I've even had people come after me, and I generally just kind of let it go because I don't want to get into that. I would say this, though, which I think can apply to a lot of people that we're talking about here. And it is, and this is going to sound maybe a little pompous, but I know more than 95% of the people who were 100% sure what was going to happen on this one. And I approached it with, did I say 95% of them? No, I knew more than 100% of them who thought they were 100% sure. And I approached it with a lot more humility than they do, because I worked the Iraq war issue for years and was over there. I worked the Afghanistan war issue for years and was over there. And a lot of GWAT people were actually door kickers and putting their lives in line. I was not. I was sort of a thinking, analyst nerd guy. But people are very wrong, and they should always leave open the possibility that they may not know as much as they think they do. I would say I appreciate, like, Matt Walsh, for example, I think has a consistency on this issue. And while people who are particularly pro-Israel may disagree with Matt, I don't think that he was hysterical or came from this at a place of something other than what the military reality of this is. Mm-hmm. And what did seem to creep in with some people on their analysis of this was resentments that have nothing to do with how many bombs are going to hit American bases. And that was troubling, I think. I think there was some of that. I don't know if you guys see it that way too, but yeah.
Yeah, Buck, I think sometimes you can say things without exactly saying them. All right, let's go to Tax Network USA, and then we will finish up with the Democrats, who are even crazier than we thought they were. This month, Tax Network USA is celebrating American Pride Month with 10% off all services honoring freedom, resilience, and financial independence. If you missed the April 15th deadline or you have back taxes, don't wait. The IRS is ramping up enforcement fast. Penalties can hit 5% per month. The good news, Tax Network USA can help. Whether you're self-employed, run a business, or your finances are a mess, their experts know how to get results. Consultations are free, and acting now could save you from wage garnishments or bank levies down the road. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Dave to get started. Take advantage of this month's sale for 10% off. All right, this from Donald Trump on the future of the Democrats. I love this. I have an idea for the Democrats to bring them back into play. After years of being left out in the cold, including suffering one of the greatest losses in history, the 2024 presidential election, the Democrats should nominate low IQ candidate Jasmine Crockett for president, and AOC plus 3 should be respectively vice president and 3 high-level members of cabinet, added together with our future communist mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, and our country is really screwed. Here is Lady Eyelashes thoughtfully explaining what happened with Iran.
Money. Let me tell you, just dropping those few bombs in one day, that was the beginning of what is going to be a very long bill for us as they talk about being efficient. There was nothing efficient about doing it. And maybe if there was some consultation, maybe with those that say have constitutional authority, since we care about the Constitution, then maybe we could have saved the American people not only money, but the lives that are now at risk, as we have to put out warnings for American citizens in this country and abroad. Maybe we need to start leading with the people at the middle of what it is that is guiding us.
And to understand enough about the Constitution to the extent that I'm the one that's supposed to make the decision, or at least get a vote.
Let me add one quick thing here. This is from Fox News. Jasmine Crockett drops out of the race for top House Oversight Committee Democrat. Crockett says she would still be loud and proud. Karol, I'm not going to as much give you a question as ask you to just do the head motions that she does while you're talking. I don't really care about what you say right now. Can you just do all of that stuff?
It's unbelievable because when you watch video of her from years ago where she was campaigning and where she was first getting into the political world, the way she speaks is so wildly different. And I know the people will be like, oh, you have to shift for different audiences, but it's the same audience. It's still the constituents that she's speaking to, but now she's decided that this hood way of talking is the way that she's going to be. I find her extremely fake, and I don't know how anybody on the Democrat side likes that she's in the news at all. I think that she is just a fraud. AOC is less of a fraud to me, even though she does the same thing where she tries to play up her hood bona fides, even though she grew up in Westchester. I think that the Jasmine time is coming probably to an end. Her 15 minutes seem close to up. But Democrats really need to clean house of people like her, and they need to say that this is not what they stand for. And I'm not sure they're ready to do that yet.
Yeah, I hate to tell you, sister, don't hold your breath. Let's throw to the final clip, because if these people aren't crazy enough with the endless clown car that just seems to get worse and worse, they did try. I mean, this was the most underreported story of the week. They tried to impeach Trump again, but it did not work.
Let's see. On this vote, the yeas are 344, the nays are 79. The motion is adopted. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.
Well, Buck, they didn't impeach Trump. I think I've done everything I can do on this Friday show. What can I expect of you at the Big Dave Rubin birthday bash tomorrow night?
Have you ever seen somebody do a kip up and then a handspring backflip?
Not since 1997.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. You might see someone do that. Won't be me, though. But yeah, it'll be exciting to be there at the big party. And maybe I'll bust out some of my funky moves, Dave. You can't handle all this. You can't handle all this flavor.
You know that Dave Rubin party playlist is coming. Karol, what can we expect from you?
I think Buck has more flavor than Jasmine, honestly.
And better
I am very excited to drink a lot of your tequila. I'm just going to say it like that. I'm very psyched for it. I've tried it before, and I can't wait to get into that tequila.
End communication. See you guys tomorrow. Everyone else, see you Monday.